Good morning. So I thought I would show you all the things I have going on in my kitchen. It's a mess, but that's the way it is sometimes. And so here we go. Morning, I actually have some northern beans soaking. They were soaking overnight with water and vinegar. And we always soak our beans, but when we add the vinegar, that helps break down the acid and makes it easier for them to be digested. And that's for dinner tonight, which I will make in the crock pot in order to keep the house from getting too hot and to save energy. This is my sourdough that got a little feisty last night and got over the jar. I'm also working on some sourdough bagels that I had prepared. They're going to rise for 30 minutes and then I'm going to boil them and bake them really quickly this morning. On the pot on the stove, I have 2 gallons of milk turning into raw milk, actually turning into mozzarella. I'm going to be heating that to 90 degrees before I start to put the rennet in it. The citric acid is already in that, and that helps with the stretching. Then I have the pot of water for boiling the bagels. And the water also has baking soda and salt that gives good flavor and makes the skin the way you like them on bagels. In the Instapot, I have actually some yogurt from last night, staying nice and warm. And all the way over here in the pasteurizer, I have some milk getting to temperature for yogurt because I actually pasteurized the yogurt, and I will probably separate it first. So all of that is going on in my kitchen this morning. Okay, so I'm going to add the rennet to the 2 gallons of goat milk that I have it's reached about 90 degrees, and the rennet is like a half a teaspoon to a half a cup of water. And this is what's going to make the curd, and you want to do it slowly and mix it well like this for a little while, about 30 seconds it says. With mozzarella, almost anything happens. The last time I was doing this, curd started immediately. Times before that, I've never seen anything that's happened like that with curds. And you know, it all works out in the end. Don't worry too much. Just keep going. This time it happened again. You can see that there's starting to be a separation in those colors. It's just fine. It'll work out. It did last time. So I ended up making this chocolate banana bread recipe because I want to use my lower rack as well as my higher rack when I am baking in the summer. For any period of time, I want to use that heat as best as possible. And so I didn't have the 4 bananas this recipe needed. I think my theme for today is you don't have to be perfect. So I just basically halved the recipe, and I'll put it in a shallow baking dish instead of a bread because this was like for a loaf of bread that would take 50 minutes. There's no way when it's going to be over 80 degrees outside that I'm going to have my stove on for that long. So I'm going to turn it into kind of a brownie or whatever. It'll still be tasty and can be portioned out appropriately. So I'm just doing that as well today. So this is what it looks like, and I'm sure it will bake up just in the same amount of time that my bagels will bake up after I boil them. I also still have my milk going right now. You can see the curds are forming. I'm going to be heating that up about the same time that I'm boiling the bagels, and the bagels have been sitting out for about half an hour, and so they're nice and fluffy now and ready to go into the water. Okay, so I have my milk that's going to be starting to heat up again for the mozzarella cheese. I have the water that is going to be first for the bagels, then I'll change it all out and use it for my mozzarella. This water has 1 tablespoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. And the recipe called for 2, but I find 1 works just fine. That's what I mean by don't stress out, just keep going and use what you have. And sometimes you don't need everything that the recipe is called for. But I have this rack to put my bagels on after they come out of the water so that they won't be soggy on the bottoms when I put them back on the pan to to bake. And I'm going to turn this very low and stir the curd up. This would be the point in your recipe with mozzarella that it would tell you to cut the curd. I have never gotten to a place where it is cuttable. I guess our goat milk is not textbook, but even though the curd looks like this, if you can see it, it's kind of like cloddy like it might be when you make farmer's cheese. This will work out to be mozzarella just fine. So we're just stirring it to get it off the bottom of the pan and to kind of break up the curds a little bit so that they can heat well, because that's the point of breaking the curds. So how do we do these bagels? We just take them off the parchment paper and plop them in. We do about 3 at a time. And you're going to do them for 30 seconds to a minute on each side. And then you'll turn them over, put them on the rack, and continue on to the next ones. So now you can see that they're floating. I've already flipped them over. In a couple of seconds, I'm just going to move them to the rack. There'll be a little bit of dripping. A lot is just going to what is it called? Evaporate from the heat on the rack so that I can put them back on the parchment paper and bake them up. I'm going to also put an egg wash on them, and then you can put any sort of sprinkles you'd like to put on, like everything bagel or sesame seeds or poppy seeds or anything, maybe onion flakes or something like that. So this is the milk that I had in the pasteurizer earlier. It's gotten up to 180 for at least 10 minutes, and you are going to have to pasteurize any milk that you want to turn into yogurt if you want it to be thick. If you want the probiotics that raw milk provides you, then you just have to have it thin, or you're going to have to add gelatin or something like that to it. But in order to get thick yogurt, you have to get it up to where you kill even the good bacteria so that only the yogurt bacteria survives and creates that nice thick yogurt. Also, you have to strain it for a long time. So now I'm going to take it from 180 down to 120 where I will separate it, and then I will make yogurt from it. And I'm going to cool it off by filling the sink full of cool water. Okay, so now I'm adding the egg wash to it, and the egg wash is an egg white with about 1/4 cup of water. And I love to do them in these little mason jars because then I can keep this egg wash in my refrigerator for at least a couple more days. So if I want an egg wash on anything else that I might bake or use. And once you put this on, you can sprinkle anything you want to stick to the top of the bagels. I did some fun cinnamon crumble before, and that was delicious. Most of them, especially if they're ugly on top, that's a really good chance to make them look better by sprinkling something like everything bagel seasoning on them. And I still have my water running in the sink to cool off the milk, so that's what the background noise is. So I'm gonna go get something to top these with. They're all pretty after I've topped them with the everything bagel seasoning. And you know, I'm never worried about making too much because these baked goods, like the banana bread alternative that I put in the oven already, they are going to freeze really well. We're also going on a trip later this week, so these will be great things to take with us for snacks while we're driving. So now that the milk has reached the right temperature and the curd is in there, as you can see it started to kind of stick together, I'm going to get it in the metal strainer here. Clotted together. I'm not worried about that. I've worked with that before and it hasn't been a problem. And I think that's pretty much it. Let me take this to the sink just to make sure. Now some people have used the whey to heat up the curd again and to stretch it. I have tried that in the past and it never really worked well for me, so I'm going to stick to water. which is what has worked. And yeah, that's pretty much all of the curd. There's just a little bit left here. And my dog will come up and clean up the rest of this because the dogs love the way. Rocky! He's a good boy. He stays out of the kitchen unless asked. I'm gonna clean up some way there. Get it! Good boy. Alright, so now what we're gonna do is we actually have two nice hunks of curd as it is, and you can see that just picking it up really just starts getting that milk out of it anyways. Just scrunching it together. Works that milk out. And get it in the water. And it's gonna start heating it up. You can see the texture is different already. It's not quite stretchy like I'd like it, so we're gonna get it back in there again. We're again just really working that milk out. Get it to the right temperature. Hot. Oh, it's starting to get stretchy there. It's a little bit hot for me. I'm gonna make it more like a pancake so that the heat can get all the way through it, and see the texture there is different than the texture there. We want to get it all to that right texture. Carefully put it back in. Bring it out. Ah, see, now we got some good stretch, don't we? It's still a little too hot for me, so I'm gonna let it sit. Stretch, stretch. And now we need to get some salt working in it too. That helps pull out some of the milk and keeps it nice and firm. Because if you don't get the milk out when you put it in the refrigerator, it'll kind of just fall apart. You see? Very nice. So I'm going to get some salt on this and then work on the other curd. To see the very different texture, that's what the heat does to it in the stretching. So here's another tip. Wash all the things that you have cheese on as quickly as possible. Let them get hot, because it is a pain if it dries. It's a lot of work, a lot more work. Just do it right away. So I have the digital scale here. I'm going to see how much 2 gallons of our goat milk today brought us for cheese. So every good kitchen should have a digital scale, especially if you're working with goat milk, because this is important for soap making and all those sorts of things. So let's just see. We've got 10 ounces there. So with this other one, we have 1 pound, 7 ounces of cheese that we made right from 2 gallons of our goat milk. And I'm going to wrap these up and put them in the refrigerator, because I'll probably be making calzones for our trip that we're going to be taking and freezing them. That's another great tip if you're going to go camping or be away where you do not have electricity or on a long trip. If you freeze a lot of items and put them in your cooler, they'll defrost gradually and you don't have to worry about the ice. Okay, so this is my cream separator, and because you just never know what's going to happen and it is such a useful tool, we've opted to get the hand crank. Because of that, it can be a little finicky. And so before you get milk in there, absolutely make sure that everything is running smoothly. Try to crank that, listen for sounds. How hard is it? So it's moving well. I'm going to continue to put the pieces on. Actually, I want to check to see how far my screw is in too. So this little screw controls everything. the further in you put it, the thicker the cream you're going to get, the farther out it is. Here, let me pull it out for you. The more half and half style you're going to get. And that's kind of important. So it's this tiny little screw, and it is, where is it? Right there. How do they do it in the beauty ads? That's not what this is, obviously. It is morning, and I have nothing on but the beautiful glow that the Father gave me, and it's still not focusing in, but it's a very small screw. Very important. That goes inside the cream separator. That allows all of the parts to work together. It's important that it is in and in well. We went through a season where we needed to replace one of these parts because the screw fell out every time we tried to separate things. So this allows us to use the milk for other things. I have a wonderful Velveeta recipe, which maybe I'll do for you tomorrow if this works out well, that involves cream. Obviously you can make butter out of the cream, and you can have cream from the cream. And yes, it does seem like it is moving well, so I am going to get the milk in here. And I don't know if you'll get to see that because it could be pretty difficult for me to stop cranking this once everything's going. Go at just the right speed. Too fast and the cream won't come, too slow and the cream won't come. This little lever closes everything up. I'm going to put the rest of the milk in. This can hold 2 gallons at a time, but there's no way you want 2 gallons in there at a time. The weight causes everything to be off slightly, and you really don't want to deal with that. It'll sometimes cause it to seize up too. So the cream separator is winding down. It takes a little while to stop spinning. But this cream that we have here is very thick. You can see it in the separator here. It's gotten stuck. It doesn't want to move. It's 80 degrees. I'm guessing if it were closer to 75 in here, that it might not move at all. I've had that happen. In fact, recently some of our creams set up and became hard in the refrigerator in the cool temperature. So let's see how much cream we got. That's very thick cream. This is not half and half. It's very thick. I'm going to guess about 2 cups from the 2 gallons. And you can see just how thick it is because it has coated this bowl really well. Let me get a spatula. We're going on 10 o'clock. I've been working since 8, so this is 2 hours, and we've made mozzarella, bagels. Well, I started this morning by making sourdough waffles, but I didn't show the video of that. And we've got 2 things of yogurt. We separated the milk, and we've got the cream and the milk. And let's see, almost 2 cups right there of very, very thick cream. If I would have done it with a little bit, if I was concerned about making sure that the milk was fat-free instead of just trying to get the cream, I would have probably loosened that screw a little bit more to get a thicker, well, not a thicker, but more cream. And that would have assured that there was no cream left in the milk. But in this way, this is the best cream for butter, and it's going to be delicious in that Velveeta cheese. I needed 2 cups. This should be just fine for that. So hopefully tomorrow you can join me with that. It's 80 degrees in here. I'm a little warm. So I'm gonna get yogurt going now. I have some yogurt in the Instapot right now, and I will use that when I don't have another use for my Instapot. But as I mentioned before, I have beans that I'm going to make for dinner. We're going to have a sweet beans meal tonight, which will be great because we'll make it in the slow cooker, and there won't be more heat in the house. 80 degrees, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not into turning the heat on today. So that's what happens whenever we bake. You know, when I watch those ladies baking in the South, I always think you've got air conditioning privilege. Now, we have air conditioning, but with the rates here in Michigan, we are not turning it on unless we have to. So, for the yogurt, we usually start with a culture, and there's just enough left in my old yogurt container, so I'm just going to skip another dirty dish, because as you can imagine from all that I've done this morning, I do have a lot of dishes to do before lunch. And so you're going to take that and mix a little bit of milk that you have there. And this milk is probably, it was 120. It was 120 when we put it through. But the cream separator, all of that movement really cools it off. So it's probably like 80 degrees now, because that would be room temperature. It's almost what it is when it comes out of the goat. That's about 90 to 100 degrees. And so once you got that all mixed up, we're going to put it together with the rest of the milk. And you know, my theme today is you do not have to be perfect. I've made yogurt for years now, and you can use as much as 1/4 of a cup to a whole cup. Really, I mean, just use as you want to. So many times we see recipes where it's very, very specific. It's fine. All of it's going to work out. You can use as little as 1/4 of a cup. Now, sometimes when I'm making the yogurt, we might have a batch or two that's not that thick, and so I might use the leftovers from that, like a whole cup, to start the next batch. So again, the thickness is, you have to make sure you're really getting up to that 180 for a long enough time, and you have to strain it longer. We'll strain it in our refrigerator so that it's not gaining more sourness, but also so you get that thick yogurt that everybody really enjoys. Okay, so I've mixed the yogurt all the way through the milk in the pasteurizer, and that's just gonna sit here all through the day and probably tomorrow morning. I try to live a low-carb lifestyle, which means we usually do a 24-hour yogurt to get as much of the carbs out of it as possible. With the goat milk, doesn't get real sour though. This yogurt, however, has only been in my Instapot, and I have it set at 110, because anything higher than 120 is going to kill the bacteria. You need to keep it at least at 75 to continue to grow the bacteria. So, I mean, really with 80 degrees here in the house and in this pot, it's taking very little energy to keep it at 110. It's only been in there probably about 12 hours, but I'm going to actually start draining it, and it'll continue at room temperature to build its yogurt qualities until I put it in the refrigerator. I'll move it out of this, because this is a very large thing to have in your refrigerator, if you see, for 2 gallons of yogurt, or how it's starting. But by the end of the day, I should be able to move it into a smaller strainer and bowl to put into my refrigerator easily. And I tend to wet down the cheesecloth that you're going to use. It'll more easily begin to get the whey flowing through it. So this is what the yogurt looks like when I first got out of the Instapot. You can see that the whey is already separating from it, and it's already rather thick. That's why it's so important to get it up to that temperature if you really just want thick yogurt. If you want the probiotics, then again, you can put gelatin in it or something else to thicken it, but this is the way to do it if you want the yogurt probiotics to really flourish. Also, all of my, see there, some of the dishes that I talked about, it's piling up. This cream separator, this is the filter, and this is the milk jug that we brought it in with. And so what I do after I put the yogurt in, not all the yogurt fit in here, so I'm going to wait till it drains out and then I'll put more in, is I put just a piece of plastic wrap over the top, and then I just fold the cheesecloth on top of it, and that prevents the yogurt from getting on the cheesecloth and making it messy. And really, if you've done this a while, you know that once it drains out well, the yogurt kind of starts pulling away from the cheesecloth, so it makes for less mess. Also, if you have flies in your house, because farms and animals, I usually will put a pizza pan on top of the strainer again, and I usually leave the little ladle in there so I can move it around to get that thick yogurt off of the cheesecloth and allow some more of the whey to get throughout the day. So in 2 hours this morning, we pasteurized the milk to start yogurt. We started draining a yogurt from yesterday. We made a chocolate banana alternative bread because it was supposed to be a bread, but we decided to make it in a wider pan, shallower depth, so that we could cook it through in the same time that we cooked our bagels, which we also made today. There's the cream that we separated, and here's the cheese that we made this morning, the mozzarella cheese. So, and our starter for fun stuff tomorrow, and perhaps a hint on what we could do tomorrow as well. So, all of this is very possible at the same time. I find it's actually easier to work on a lot of stuff in the kitchen at once versus one thing where you're always waiting for the next step. So I hope that you enjoyed this and got some really good tips and had fun with me, and you have a great day. Bye. We also made some kefir.